Hey everyone, welcome back to another session on semantics. This is a continuation from the previous one with polysemy. Now we look at different tests that have been devised for identifying polysemy, and also the idea that polysemy and monosemy forms a continuum, okay, a gradation. Um, these are the two sections where these topics are taken for this presentation. Um, One issue in the definition of polysemy is the notion of conceptually related senses or semantic relatedness. This notion can be notoriously unconstrained, unrestricted. Okay, why so? Because you can just conceive any conceptual relation. Okay, you can just find any conceptual relation, any semantic relation between two or any two meanings. Okay, and because of this unconstrained nature of the notion conceptually related meaning, it will prevent us from diagnosing homonymy and monosemy because we just find um, any relation between two meanings. While in fact in homonymy you will not find any relation between two meanings of a word, and in monosemy the word just has one meaning. Okay, so this is an issue in the definition of polysemy, and tests have been devised for uh, teasing out this issue. Let's see the example of what is meant by conceptual related issue that is unconstrained. Take a look at the book, the words book and pound. Okay, their meanings actually they are actually not really related. They are totally not related actually, but someone can view or consider their meanings to be related conceptually. Imagine they make up a relation such as, well, books are typically quite heavy. Yeah, they can be quite heavy, and they can have a weight of several pounds. So they create or make up a relation between the typical weight of a book and a unit of measurement of uh, a weight, namely pounds. Yeah. While in fact that's just um, senseless connection. Okay, it's not useful. And another example is noun pick from France. So pick here, this pick. Um, Now it has two meanings, woodpecker and pig. While in fact these two meanings are not related historically. So the woodpecker sense is from the word picus in Latin, and the pig sense is from the word pico in Spanish. But it just happened that the words, okay, picos pico, expressing these two meanings, these words just happen to be pronounced similarly when they enter France. So that's why, yeah, pronounced similarly like pig, and this pig brings with it two different senses which are actually from different origin, yeah, from different languages. And then modern speakers of French may just create, you know, make up a conceptual link, yeah, the conceptual relation between these two meanings, and consider pig as polysmos. Um, how would they create that relation? They may think that, well, woodpecker, a shape of woodpecker beak, okay, bentuk paruh dari burung woodpecker itu is associated or is viewed or is regarded as similar with the shape of a steep mountain top, bentuk dari puncak gunung yang terjal, ya. So they find such, or they created such connection. It's possible, and in that way it makes peak polysmos. While in fact modern French dictionary um, do not perform or do not posit, do not create such analysis, because these two meanings, woodpecker and pig, they are from different origin. Yeah, French lexicographers have the etymological information of this word, while um, speakers, yeah, contemporary French speakers who are not really a linguist, they may not have that etymological information, and who could prevent them to create such connection, okay, between shape of woodpecker's beak and steep of a mountain top, the peak, so that pig, the noun pig, becomes polysemous. Okay, so these two examples, pig and pound and book, illustrate the idea of unconstrained nature of the notion, conceptual relation between meanings. All right, now polysemy tests. There are three tests: definitional test, logical test, linguistic test. Um, definitional test is the oldest one. Yeah, it is originally due to Aristotle, and this definition posits or proposes that in order to find the number of different senses of a word, the polysemous nature of a word, we need to identify the number of different definitions that we need to convey or express the meaning of that word accurately. So different senses of a word is equated, is considered to be identifiable from the different definition of a word. Okay, so in other words, a word is polysemous if you cannot find one single definition that is applicable to any use of a word. Yeah, we know a word can be used in different contexts that may convey different senses, and if you cannot find one single definition to capture all of these usage of a word, then that word is polysemous. Okay, example, the noun quarry, which has two different meanings: site dedicated to open air excavation of stone, object of a search of hunt or hunt. And there is no one single definition that could cover these two meanings of quarry. In that way, under definitional test, quarry is polysemous. The issue is that it's now widely rejected because yeah, definitional test has been widely rejected because it assumes, yeah, it requires you to know in advance, to know beforehand that well, this word has this number of meanings. Okay, in other words, it asks you to know the answer about how many meaning a word uh, can have. While in fact, that's the idea of performing polysemy tests, to know what are the meanings of this word and whether a word is polysemous or not. Okay. Logical test is frequently suggested for polysemy. Okay, um, and in this test, a word is polysemous if you can, at the same time, if the word you can, at the same time, the word can be true and false of the same reference. So what does it mean is that um, a given word has the referent, and this referent at the same time can be true as well as false. We'll see example for that. So in other words, we will have simultaneous affirmation and denial of the same word. That's the idea of logical test. Okay, logical test usually has something that is true and something that is false. Okay, and if the referent of one word can be true and false at the same time, that is the polysemous nature of the word. Yeah, the logic is that you can only deny the referent of word as well as agree with that referent. Yeah. You can simultaneously affirm and deny the referent of a word if um, the affirmation of the referent and the denial of the referent applies to different meanings of a word. Okay, one word can have um, certain referent, and you deny that referent and affirm that at the same time, because a word can have two different meanings. We'll see that example. Example one: bread is a staple, um, but bread is not a staple. So you agree in one point with the referent of staple, but in another point you deny it. Yeah, it is a staple, yeah, but not that other staple, because staple can mean basic foodstuff, which is in agreement with bread. But staple can also mean stationary item, which is not bread. Okay, unless you have a stationary item that is shaped with bread shape, but well, that's not really. Yeah. Second example: this man is a minister in the sense of priest. Yeah, he is a priest, minister if it is a priest, but he's not a minister if he is a politician. Yeah, so affirmation and denial at the same time for the referent of minister, because minister can have different reference, priest on one hand and politician on the other hand. Lastly, I think this is quite obvious and make this idea is clearer. The logical test is that the exam paper was hard, um, in the sense of difficult, but it is not hard in the other sense, namely physically firm in your thoughts. Okay. Yeah. So simultaneous affirmation and denial for the reference of word, and because that these words can be considered as polysemy under the logical test. Um, and the consequence, yeah, the implication of adopting this test is that it requires you, it leads you to identify polysemy in many situations. Okay, yeah, because when you can affirm and deny the reference of a word at the same time, it means that you identify polysemy uh, every time. Okay, because you have true and false. While in fact, in many cases, we don't really want to know more than one meaning of a word. Okay, we just actually try to focus on one meaning of a word, but using logical tests make you uh, identify the two meanings of a word, yeah, because you have true affirmation and at the same time denial. Here is an example. Let's take example number 6, for instance. When you actually just want to talk about a 16-year-old, and you can just say he's an adult, yeah, mature, okay, but not another adult, namely legally adult, where it means that you are at the age of uh, you can get, let's say, driving license, or drinking permission, okay, that kind of legal adult. So actually this adult are two different perspectives, yeah, being mature and legally adult are actually two different perspectives of the word adult, and the description of the word adult only applies to one of these two perspectives, yeah, it's not really two meanings. So the idea of adult, when you really want to convey or express one meaning, namely 16-year-old, one reference, 16-year-old boy, one perspective of adult, namely being mature, is applicable, but not the legally adult um, perspective, because 16-year-old is not yet maybe age where you can be called an adult legally. Okay, legally speaking. Yeah. So that's the consequence. You just uh, you're just made to identify polysemy all the time using a logical test. Well, in fact, these are just two perspectives. Okay, and it is common test in used to distinguish polysemy and monosemy linguistic tests, and it usually involves construction that predicate the same information of two different subjects using the and so construction. Yeah, using such conjunctive construction. We'll see that. Okay. So 8A and 8B. In 8A, the quartet are playing, and so are Real Madrid. Okay, look at this, and so Real Madrid. 8B, the quartet are playing, and so is the trio. So quartet is a subset or a group of performers who are in a group of four, a quart, and they play a musical instrument. So does trio, just consisting of three members playing musical instrument. So in order for sentence 8A to be not bizarre, not strange, not odd, not awkward, you want to know that the verb playing here is the same for quartet and Real Madrid. In other words, you want to know that quartet and Real Madrid perform the same activity, yeah, because of this and so pattern here. Okay, it indicates and it suggests that, well, the quartet and Real Madrid perform the same kind of playing activity. And if you think that because I mean because quartet, the playing of a quartet and the playing of Real Madrid are two different kind of playing. Okay, in one hand it perform a musical piece, and in the other hand, it is a sporting activity, um, the use of and-so construction, the use of and-so conjunction in A is not appropriate. Okay, so and-so construction requires that same information, in this case, same playing activity, is predicated to different subject, the quartet of subject of playing, and Real Madrid, which is also the subject of playing. Okay, so because they are not the same, so playing here is considered to be polysemous. Um, and then yeah, and this different notion of playing, performing musical piece, sporting activity, and they are combined with the and-so construction. These are called cross or zeugmatic because you mix two different activities. Okay, and that in that way, A indicates that playing are expressing two different senses. Playing is expressing two different senses. All right. Meanwhile, in 8B, because quartet uh, is kind of musical performers, so is trio, and they perform the same activity, performing musical instrument, musical piece. So playing here is not bizarre. Yeah, you can say them to play to play the same activity, right? So the issue of this test is that it is highly subjective. What does it mean is that when you ask different people, different, uh, let's say, respondents or participants to judge whether, hey, is this sentence strange? Is it a strange, for instance, or bizarre? They will most likely have different opinions. Okay, someone may think that yeah, yeah, quartet are playing and so are Real Madrid. That's fine. They do the same kind of playing in a more abstract way. But some people will think that no, the playing that they perform is different. Okay, musical and sporting activity. So it's highly subjective. Yeah. And at some point it is also giving you unreliable result, especially when you know that a word is polysemous in the context of the use of that word. Yeah. Here we try to see whether the verb playing is polysemous using this and so construction. But in other words, linguistic tests can be also unreliable when you know that the word is already polysemous. Yeah. Let's see the example. The newspaper has decided to reduce its size. The context of the sentence is that a paper, a managerial or a company of a newspaper has decided to change the format of its product, the object of newspaper, from broadsheet to a tabloid. Okay, so in this sentence, in the first occurrence of newspaper in a full form newspaper, it refers to the managerial, okay, to the company or person in charge in the managerial, because only a person can make decision. Okay, an object such as newspaper cannot make decision. And meanwhile, you will expect the use of these pronouns, possessive pronoun. It's the same. Yeah, the reference should be the same here with the newspaper, but in fact, it's here, which is co-referential of newspaper, of course. It refers to different object. It does not refer to the managerial, but to the real product of a newspaper. Okay. In that way, we know that newspaper is polysemous, and we don't really need such linguistic tests. Okay, because yeah, newspaper and it's here, they are just referring to different senses of newspaper. Okay, right. So those are the tests, and I mean nearly every test has issue, and that makes most linguists is like um, they just like abandon the strict division of polysemy and monosemy, and they try to view these two notions as endpoint, yeah, as endpoint of a continuum where you have different level of monosemicity and polysemicity. Okay, yeah, different level of polysemy and monosemy. Let's see that. Okay, this is the section. So the continuum of polysemy and monosemy indicates that uh, a meaning of a word can be considered at different level of abstraction. So I use gradation, color gradation to illustrate continuum, ya, rentangan in Indonesian. And the whiter the color is, the more general the meaning of word is that you consider. Yeah, if you take this level of abstraction when you describe the meaning of a word, that word becomes more monogamous. We will see example. And if you are more of a splitter, okay, the one who likes to split thing, um, can take this more specific level of uh, meaning, you will find that different use of word can indicate different meaning. Okay, and this is of course subjective and gradable. Yeah, and you know the increasing this, the darker the color indicates um, higher degree of um, difference in the semantics of a word. Okay, so a word may appear to be variously polysemous, okay, or monosemous in different polysemy tests depending on which in this continuum your position is. Okay, take a look at this example. What have you been to doing? What you two have been doing all afternoon? I've been painting, and so has Jane. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This sentence, B sentence, can be interpreted or uttered in different contexts. Let's see. What happens if I here is, yeah, painting a portrait, and well, it should be Jane here. I don't know why it comes with John. Well, and then on the other hand, John is painting road stripes. Okay. If you are more of this person here towards the end, you would see that this answer is misleading, especially when you use this and so pattern. Yeah, and so pattern or and so conjunction here suggests that I and John should have the same painting activity. Okay, while in fact they do different kind of painting. Okay, and in that way, this B sentence is dogmatic. Okay, or it's misleading, bizarre, awkward because they do different paintings. And yeah, in one hand, I am performing an artistic activity involving the application of paint, while my friend Jane or John in this case is doing a non-artistic activity involving the application of paint. You could argue that, well, um, doing such you know road stripes painting is also an art in itself. It's still subjective, but yeah, socially speaking, this is of course more artistic. Yeah, painting a portrait. Yeah, so if you are a splitter, this is misleading answer, and painting is polysemous. But if you take this more generic position, okay, you would think that no difference. They just do a more general painting. Yeah, just an activity that they do that involve application of paint, regardless whether it is artistic or non-artistic activities. All right, another example um, in 11. Yeah, imagine in sentence 11, the context is that the speaker I is painting a portrait and Franz is painting stripes on the road. Okay, and see the sentence, when I'm painting, I try to get color on evenly, and so does Franz. So what does it mean is that it does not focus on the type. It does not require accurate description of the type of the painting, but rather it focuses on the how you would apply the color on the surface that you apply. Um, yeah, it focuses on the how. Okay, and in that way, the difference between artistic and non-artistic disappears. Yeah. Meanwhile, the one that is in 10, I've been painting, and so has John. It has a requirement for you to accurately describe the type of the activity. And these types have different social values. Painting a portrait and painting stripes could be viewed as fundamentally different artistic pursuit, professional employment, and describing these two different activities with the same verb could be considered misleading by some people. Okay, yeah. So those are polysemy-monosemy continuum. So again, going back to this gradation, if you are more into this uh, position, yeah, you see that uh, portrait painting, road paintings are just broader activities of applying paint or color on a surface. Yeah, so the word paint then becomes more monogamous, just one meaning. Broad activities involving application of paint. But if you take this more refined position, more detailed position, so you will see paint as polysemous because it involves face painting, body painting, nail painting, and so on. Okay, yeah. So polysemy monosemy continuum. Um, okay, I think that's it. And if you have questions, you can email me. And I hope to see you soon next week. Bye bye.